Jeffrey Epstein's longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, today pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking charges. She was also denied bail by the judge in New York and will remain in prison until she stands trial a year from now. Her lawyer argued that she should be released on a $5 million bail bond because she doesn't pose a flight risk and could get COVID-19 in jail. Maxwell is accused of recruiting at least 3 underage girls to be sexually abused by Epstein between 1994 and 1997. She faces up to 35 years in prison if convicted. She was arrested by the FBI on July 2nd. Joining me is one of the most prominent civil rights lawyers in the United States of America, Gloria Allred. Much of Gloria's work has been focused on women's rights issues, and she is currently representing 17 of Jeffrey Epstein's alleged victims. Gloria Allred, welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Carol. Nice to be here.
What was the reaction from your clients to the news that Ghislaine Maxwell had been denied bail?
Well, one of my clients, Jane Doe 15, with whom I had previously done a press conference some time ago, and who is a victim of Jeffrey Epstein, said that she cried with tears of joy at the court's decision to decline Ms. Maxwell's motion to be released on bail. And in addition, my client, Alicia Arden, who is also a victim of Jeffrey Epstein, and who has evidence that she is the first one that filed a police report about Jeffrey Epstein, alleging that he sexually battered her, and she did that in 1997. She also listened to the proceedings and said that she was very, very happy with the court's decision, that she did also feel that Ms. Maxwell is a flight risk and should not have been released on bail.
Do you think that is the reason, the sole reason the judge took that decision?
I do think that that was a very strong reason, Carol, because the judge said, the government did not argue that Ms. Maxwell was a danger to the community. So then that left the issue of flight risk. The court cited the fact that Ms. Maxwell has great financial wealth, that she has international connections, that she is a citizen of the UK, of France, and she's a naturalized citizen of the United States as well, but that she could flee, and that there are no bail conditions which could guarantee that she would not flee. So for that reason, she has kept her in custody in Brooklyn. And even though COVID-19 was an argument that her attorneys made as to why she should be released, the court indicated that the defense did not argue that she is, in fact, a high risk, Ms. Maxwell, because of her age or her health, because after all, Ms. Maxwell is 58. That's not a high-risk category for COVID-19.
Maxwell's lawyers are arguing that Jeffrey Epstein's death left the media, quote, wrongly trying to substitute her for Epstein. Might that be true?
Well, that is an argument by the defense, and the defense said in its brief, Ms. Maxwell is not Jeffrey Epstein. Having said that, she is charged with very serious crimes. She's charged with conspiring to groom, to recruit, to abuse underage girls for the purpose of sex trafficking them to Jeffrey Epstein. She's also charged with abusing at least one of the underage girls herself, and she's charged with perjury. So that's correct. She's not Jeffrey Epstein, but she is charged with serious felonies, including perjury, that the government alleging that she lied in a defamation lawsuit against her when she gave her deposition under oath about certain statements about what she knew about Jeffrey Epstein.
Today in court, victims have described her as having a sociopathic manner, that she enjoyed drawing her victims in with perceived caring. Is that consistent with what your clients are telling you?
Well, because of attorney-client privilege and confidentiality, I don't say what they're telling me, but I will say this. The allegations against Ms. Maxwell are very, very serious. I do have clients who came into contact, not all of them, but some of them, with Ms. Maxwell, and they take her very seriously and the charges against her very seriously. And by the way, I think that Prince Andrew as well needs to really think about whether and when he's going to just finally give an interview to the FBI. There's a lot of pressure on Ms. Maxwell, especially now that she is not going to be released from custody. She's been in solitary confinement. That came out this morning. And I don't know how long they're going to keep her that way in solitary, or if she'll have a cellmate. But either way, she's going to be under a lot of pressure for the next year, having to spend it in jail in Brooklyn.
Just to remind our audience that one of Epstein's victims says that Maxwell arranged for her to have sex with Prince Andrew at his townhouse in London. And you're saying the implications for the Duke are that he's going to have to cooperate because she'll be pressured to testify against him, implying that you believe he's guilty.
Well, I don't know whether he's guilty or not, so I won't make that allegation, but I will say this. The foot dragging that's been going on by Prince Andrew, the idea that he's making all kinds of excuses as to why he hasn't given an interview, and his attorneys trying to paint him as though he's a victim somehow of the Justice Department, that they're trying to contact them and they're not getting a response. It's just absurd. He needs to stop making excuses and just appear in person for the interview, even if it's in the UK. Doesn't have to be in the United States. I'm just making this guess that what he's willing to do is to answer written questions. That's not sufficient. The Justice Department wants to interview him in person.
Why is it not sufficient?
Well, it's not sufficient, Carol, because if he's doing it in writing, he can sit there with his attorneys and think about how he wants to phrase his answers. If he's doing it in person, he just has to give his answers, without sitting there and conferring with his attorneys for each and every question. So, I have a lot of concern about, and frankly, a degree of suspicion as to why he hasn't done it yet. He did an hour interview with the BBC, no problem. But he has a lot of reluctance to talk to investigators with the Justice Department. Why? Is it because he has to tell the truth if he speaks to law enforcement? He didn't have to tell the truth in a BBC interview, although I hope that he did.
Yeah, the BBC interview wouldn't exactly call it no problem after it was over, and maybe part of the reason he doesn't want to subject himself to an interview with the FBI. Who else needs to be worried?
There are a number of women who also are alleged to have assisted in recruiting young underage girls for the purpose of being sex trafficked to Jeffrey Epstein. I won't say their names, but, certainly the Justice Department knows their names, and certainly my clients have provided the names of some of them. So all I can say is they need to think about what they're going to do next. If they have criminal defense attorneys, which my guess is some of them do, perhaps it's time for them, if they have not already done so, to contact the Justice Department and see what they can work out. Maybe they'll become cooperators, meaning they have to sit and answer all questions from the FBI and the prosecutors and tell the truth about everything they know that was going on with Jeffrey Epstein and underage girls.
You have represented hundreds of women over the years who have dared to tell their stories back in a time when it was not easy for women to tell their stories, when they were not believed and even mocked for telling their stories, and it turned out to be true. What do you think has changed in terms of women being victimized by powerful men?
Well, certainly, yes. I've been doing the Me Too movement for 44 years because we are the leading women's rights law firm in the United States. And we've been helping women to have their voice for all of that time. Right now, I think that women are finding their courage, understanding that they shouldn't feel ashamed and blame themselves for being victims. There are rich, powerful, famous men who have victimized them, and they've taken advantage of these women's vulnerability. It's serious if the victims are adults. It's even more serious if they've been underage when they were victimized. So I think finally a lot of them come to the understanding that the only way to stop sexual predators is to have the courage, to equalize their power with the predator's power and to speak up and to speak out. Now, there's also a claims process for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, and I'm representing a number of people on that claims process. That's a completely confidential process, so they can speak to me confidentially. Then they can speak to the claims administrators confidentially, and they can assert a claim, and the funds will come from the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. But they don't have to be public. So some of them still do want their privacy. They're certainly entitled to that, Carol. If that's what they want, I support them in it. Some of them may speak to law enforcement. Some of them don't want to do that. So it's really up to them. But taking some action to right the wrong, some action to make the wrongdoer accountable, even if it's only through his estate, that matters. And I'm glad that they're going to be able to get accountability in some form. And I'm proud of them that they want to do that.
Lawyer Gloria Allred joining us from Los Angeles tonight. Gloria Allred, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.